There's a second Chief Allen logging in.
And yeah, if you just want to give like a 3, 2, 1 or something like that, and we can do a nice little photo before we get started.
Let's, when Commissioner White pops her camera back on, and then the second mystery Chief Allen, we'll do a photo then. Oh, Chief, we can't hear you.
Actually, this is just Mark Estes. The chief not on yet, I don't think.
Oh, hi, Mark. I see the chief, but I don't hear the chief. I hear you.
Gotcha. I'm going to go on mute.
Still can't hear you, Chief Allen. Maybe this is just a good time, Chief, while you're figuring out your audio, if everyone can maybe unmute themselves, just so we can practice to make sure audio is working. That way during the Q&A, reporters will be able to connect with whomever they like to speak. So maybe let's start with Mayor Steer. Can we hear you?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you would sound great. Mayor Chadwick?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. Mayor Simison?
Here.
Great, thank you. Mayor Evans?
Yes, here.
Great. Mayor McLean?
Yep.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Chief Carpenter?
Yes.
Great. Mayor Nankolis?
I am here. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner White?
Yes.
Okay, and fingers crossed, Chief Allen. Oh, Chief, you want to try again?
He might need to change his audio source.
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Chief Allen, sometimes too, if on the calendar invite, you might be able to call in, and sometimes through the phone if the computer piece isn't working. Okay, it's a minute after 10. If folks want to turn their screens on, we'll do a quick photo and then we'll get started. Although I said that right as our mayor just walked out.
I'm back.
Chief Allen's back, but it looks like he's muted.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Yes. Success.
That second Chief Allen on there, I have no clue who that is. I have not.
I think that's Mark Estes, Chief from ICOPA.
Okay.
Well, Kathy, let's try to do a photo real quick, and then let's try to get this started.
Okay. All right, mayors, commissioners, chiefs, on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think I got it. Let me just make sure. Of course, it didn't pull up anything. I'm sorry.
I was able to get one, Kathy.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Matt. I so appreciate it.
No
okay,
problem.
mayors. And if Matt, if you want to go ahead and start broadcasting, we can get started.
Yep, I will go ahead, and the YouTube stream will be live in about 10 seconds here.
Okay, I'll count down. All right. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's Treasure Valley Partnership press conference. We have members from the Treasure Valley Partnership, which is a consortium of elected officials at the mayor and commissioner level in Ada, Canyon, and Owyhee counties. And we gathered this morning to discuss our unified opposition to Senate Bill 1108, which is a harmful property tax bill that's actively moving in the Senate over at the Idaho State Legislature. So I want to welcome reporters, and I also want to thank mayors and commissioners, as well as some of our public safety officials from our communities who are able to join us this morning to talk about our concern with this bill and the need for the legislature to really focus around resident-centered property tax relief. This morning for the press conference, we have a number of speakers. And so to give you a quick run of show before I turn over to our first speaker, we'll have Mayor Debbie Kling from the city of Nampa, followed by Mayor Trevor Chadwick from the city of Star, Mayor Joe Steer from the city of Kuna, Commissioner Pam White with the Canyon County Commission, as well as Chief Kirk Carpenter from the Fire Nampa Department, and then Chief Rick Allen with Garden City Police. And for those reporters who have tuned in, if you could just make note in the chat, if you have a question that you would like to ask upon our speakers completing what they'd like to share this morning, please just make a note in the chat. And then Seth will be able to call on you once you reach the Q&A portion of our press conference this morning. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Debbie Kling from the city of Nampa. Go ahead, Mayor.
Kathy, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and to our reporters and those listening, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it greatly. So there has been considerable discussion around the rapid increase of property taxes that we're seeing in the Treasure Valley. And as your local elected leaders, we want the citizens of the Treasure Valley to know that this is a top concern, and we want to see property tax relief, I should say. Many families and seniors are struggling due to the significant increase in home values, and this has caused an increase in their property taxes. So last year and this year, the legislature has introduced bills, and actually they're under the guise that they will reduce property taxes. And cities, unfortunately, have been portrayed as the ones that are not doing our part. In an effort to provide property tax relief to our residents, Nampa has declined over $6 million in budget capacity that would otherwise be included in our annual budget today. To be clear, our current annual budget would be $6 million higher than it is. So this $6 million is being realized annually on a reoccurring basis. Our residents and the residents of all of us have repeatedly charged us to exercise stewardship on taxes, while also not compromising public safety in streets. We've worked hard at providing the most property tax relief possible, while also not compromising our level of service. And that's a fine line that we're elected to navigate. Cities and citizens, and some of our senators and representatives have asked the legislature to consider increasing the homeowners exemption, increase relief via the circuit breaker, and consider a change to the state statute to limit the rapid increase in assessed values. Unfortunately, no bills were allowed to be introduced to address these issues. Many legislators say it's just a tax shift. Well, in 2016, the legislature put a cap on the homeowners exemption. That has created a significant tax shift that's impacting our residential taxes today. This needs to be corrected. A group of citizens actually tried to get our legislators to bring forward a solution, and it was denied. So, Senate Bill 1108 is not the solution that some think it is. Our citizens have asked that new growth fund the growth. This bill does not allow that to happen. It only allows 75% of the growth to be captured. For the city of Nampa alone, if this bill had been enacted over the last 5 years, we would have 20 fewer police officers in our rapidly growing cities. As we look to the future, this bill will drastically impact public safety, our ability to protect our citizens, and provide critical needed services. While the city of Nampa does appreciate the carve-out that was done to prevent the devastation to our fire department, there are many other cities that will be prevented from considering cost-saving consolidations due to the limitations of this bill. We need a collaborative, comprehensive tax reform that involves input from citizens and local leaders. We need to stop pointing fingers and come together to see what we can do to create long-term, sustainable solutions for now and for our future. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next person.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kling. Up next, we have Mayor Chadwick. And Mayor, let me know if you'd like me to put up your slides right now or if at a certain point during your presentation.
Yeah, if you could pull up my property tax comparison slide, that'd be great. And you may need to blow it up a little bit.
Let me know if you all are seeing this.
Yep, we can see it right here. If you can pull this up so we can see some of this right here, it'd be great. So, hey, I appreciate everybody coming online here today. My name is Mayor Chadwick. I'm with the City of Star. As everybody realizes, Star is at the epicenter of this growth boom that we seem to be having. We're just up 58% in building permits year after year right now for housing, which is significant. This property tax bill, as written, 1108, will significantly impact the services to our city. Much has been said about new construction being the devil in property taxes, when in fact new construction is the only way that we can get growth to pay for itself through the property tax system. I put some data together from my city just to kind of give you an idea. If you look at tax district 3 on this first one on 9953 Hercules, their property value increased $46,000 in this last year between 2019-20 to 2021. That's a significant increase in value. ACHD, which is tax district 3, took zero new construction, 0.3%, and they still had an increase in property taxes coming out of that property. If you go over here to the right, as you see property values decrease, the City of Star, we just took our new construction rolls. This property here on 10459 West Acalia only went up about $4,500 in value, but yet with new construction, they did see a decrease of about $10 in property taxes coming from the City of Star. Likewise, the property over here at 212 Fernan Lake, $12,000 increase in value. They saw a decrease of 60 cents in property taxes from the City of Star with us only taking the new construction. Valuation is a serious concern in our city. By the factors and figures that I do, you could almost see that if you increase your property value about 3.5% across the board versus these inequitable valuations, you will probably see a very flat, if any, increase in property taxes when you have construction booms going on. 9705 West Compton Court in the City of Star, 1683, which is this red line down here. 488 North Taurus Way in Star, there's a $17,500 increase in property value. You saw that increase. They ended up with a $12.63 increase in property taxes from the City of Star. So it's clear that you can see just based off of this information here that valuation plays a big role in what happens with people's property taxes. On my other slide there, if you can pull that up, there's a little shift. I put a valuation comparison on here, kind of showing the increase in value of residential properties versus our ag land that's in the city and our businesses that are in the city. And you can see that there's a big burden put on the residential folks with the valuation process, which I don't think is very equitable. I'm not quite sure how properties in this time, in this environment, actually drop in valuation in our city when it's growing so stinking fast. So from the City of Star standpoint, I would like to see us work together and come up with a committee and utilize all the different pieces of our government between our police, fire, county, cities, the Senate, the House members, and come up with a true plan that will benefit all citizens of Star by working on the valuation issues that we have throughout our state. And I did see a comment asking about a copy of that, and we can get a copy to everybody. That's absolutely fine. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I hope this bill does not pass here shortly, so we can actually work on some true solutions here in the state of Idaho for everybody's property taxes.
Thank you, Mayor Chadwick. Up next, we have Mayor Joe Steer from the City of Kuna.
Well, good morning, everybody. And as she said, I'm Joe Steer. I'm mayor of the City of Kuna. Sweeping legislation in a state that's as diverse as Idaho is just not a good idea. Cities are growing at different rates, and we have quite a difference in the services that we provide. The largest one for the city of Kuna is public safety, or more specifically, police service. That accounts for about 85% of our total property tax revenue. We've been diligent over the past few years in bringing our level of service to one officer for every 1,000 residents. That's our goal. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer. We simply can't go backwards in this effort, as it's a standard that helps keep officers safe and brings us to a level of service that ensures our city is a safe place to live. People that move here leave behind the fire services, police services, parks, and all the other amenities they've been paying into for years. They come here and enjoy the services that our citizens have been investing in. New construction and annexation is how we're able to manage the increase in services needed to maintain the current level of service that we provide with an increasing population. As one of the fastest growing cities in the state, it's very important that we keep the best level of support, whether you just moved here or whether you were born and raised here. The city of Kuna has grown as much as 12% in 1 year, and we seem to be trending around 10%. In estimating the effects of Senate Bill 1108 at 75% of new construction and annexation, projecting out to 2030 at current rates, it would appear that that would create a shortfall of about $6 million on our current budget of $3.5 million. If limitations are put on new growth and annexation, we'll be forced to carefully consider what growth can occur. It will have to be growth that doesn't put a strain on our ability to provide service. That will put our city in a precarious spot. A few years back, we came to a settlement with the banks that held the ability to foreclose on properties involved in a local improvement district that was designed to build a wastewater treatment facility. Part of that deal was that the banks would take ownership of the sewer connections to that plant. We in turn have to allow growth to sell those connections so they can recoup their investment. Any attempt to slow that growth could prompt legal issues for the city. I support true tax relief solutions like reindexing the homeowner's exemption, which will not shift tax burden to business, but rather slow the ongoing shift to residential. I support enhancing access to the state's circuit breaker program. I support development impact fees. These programs will increase the amount of home value that you can exempt from your tax bill and will increase access to an assistance program for Idahoans in need. It will help finance the building of new schools to accommodate the growing number of school children. I'm very hopeful that Senate Bill 1108 is not made into law, but rather an interim committee allow the cities and other affected entities to be a part of the conversation on the issue of property tax relief. Meanwhile, I will remain committed in doing my part in tax reductions for the citizens of Kuna. Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor Steer. Appreciate your comments. And up next, we'll have Commissioner Pam White from the Canyon County Commission. And Commissioner, let me know when you'd like me to put up your slide as well.
Yeah. No. Okay. Thanks, Kathy. Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to have a few minutes here. Counties are quite a bit different than cities because Idaho law requires counties to provide a number of state mandated services, many of which are unfunded or underfunded. Idaho's 44 counties are already subsidizing the state millions of dollars each year to provide these mandated services, and I call them pass-throughs from the state. And an example of that would be, we on a Monday heard of one of the projected bills that was coming out of the legislature and about the new construction and various things. And then Thursday we had a meeting and from another entity, and we have the highest caseload of any county in Idaho in our courts. And we are going to get 3 new judges, which are desperately needed. But along with that comes about $1 million, $1.5 million bill. So the new construction and that it's hard hitting at times. Another example of this is driver's license services. This is an ITD function that is administered by the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. It's an essential service that it doesn't pay for itself, and the burden falls on county taxpayers to foot the bill. For example, in the last fiscal year alone, the county sheriff's offices have subsidized the state over $4 million when it comes to driver's license services. That's just a couple of examples how these state mandates can impact counties. There was a report that came out in January 2019 from the legislature's Office of Performance Evaluation, and it looked at this issue. That report was titled, again, this was 2019, The Impact of State Mandates on County Governments. And that found that 2/3 of counties indicated that state funding was rarely or never adequate to support these mandated services. That report, 2019 report, also showed that 2/3 of counties in Idaho were constrained by the 3% budget cap or the current expense statutory levy rate. Yet here we are just a couple of years later, and the legislature is trying to further limit our ability to collect the revenues needed to pay for these services. Even more worrisome is that they are trying to do this at a time when counties across the states are dealing with an increased demand for services due to the rising populations. I can tell you from my point as a commissioner for Canyon County, the passage of SB 1108 will not help address the problems caused by these unfunded mandates, nor will it provide meaningful property tax relief to Idahoans. As the mayors have stated earlier, the majority of homeowners will likely still see increased property taxes, even if this bill becomes law. Just look at Canyon County over the past 2 years. You can put the slide on, Kathy, if you would, please. Okay, there. Thank you very much. The majority of homeowners will see on this slide, we froze our property taxes and the request and didn't take the 3% allowable to increase the new construction of our last budget. But a majority of the landowners, homeowners, saw an increase in their property taxes. This is due to the skyrocketing home values. You will see on here that we have the $100,000 cap on homeowners, and still, as you'll look at this slide, they have a business, Walmart, out on the boulevard here in Canyon County, and their values from 17 to 2020 went down $100,000. The orange colored line will show you a home, and right behind this Walmart the value increased $1,000 in that same span of time. So that's just a shift in property taxes. I think we all agree that Idahoans need meaningful property tax relief, but SB 1108, House Bill 11, Senate Bill, is not the answer. I agree with the mayors joining me today that this issue needs to be addressed at the root of the problem. And that means re-indexing the exemption and removing or raising the current $100,000 cap. These are a couple of real solutions to a problem that affects all Idahoans. I know my fellow elected officials and I stand ready to work with our legislator to address the rising property taxes in our state. We need a solution that benefits all of our constituents, and SB 1108 is not that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Commissioner White. And next we'll have Chief Kirk Carpenter from the Nampa Fire Department. Go ahead, Chief.
Thanks, Kathy. In the beginning of Senate Bill 1108, Nampa Fire Department and the City of Nampa and the Nampa Fire Protection District found themselves in a very specific place as the bill was written. Unfortunately, the makers of the bill had not been aware of the type of annexation that had occurred when the City of Nampa and the Nampa Fire Protection District had been working for several years to identify the best way or the most appropriate funding of the fire department into the future. We were having difficulty as a city keeping up with the extreme growth. And what was determined was an agreed upon annexation of the City of Nampa's fire department to be annexed into the Nampa Fire Protection District. Originally as written, the bill would have significantly up to 60% decreased our ability to transfer the budget that was with the city into the fire protection district. We are very thankful and would agree that the amendment that was made yesterday to SB 1108 did take care of and secure the future of the Nampa Fire Department at the core. However, the amendment itself has some ambiguities that need to be worked on. As anyone that works within the City of Nampa knows, the fire department was not just funded out of property tax. We are supplemented through revenue streams from the city. So the wording in the amendment itself actually could harm the City of Nampa and the taxpayers there because it states the full budget of the fire department would need to be removed from the city's taxing ability, and that's not an actuality of how we were funded truly. So I would agree with the mayors and the commissioners on this call, as well as the others that I've talked to, that we all understand the need to reduce property tax on our homeowners and our citizens. It's nothing. Our stance against 1108 isn't about lowering taxes. For me, it was about making sure the safety of the Nampa Fire Department and the citizens of Nampa was secure. At this point, we have done that, but I can tell you the bill as written would in the future keep us from growing at a pace at which the community is growing. When we're capping new construction and annexations, we are not able to use the budget that's allowed through the state's law to grow the department itself. So another result of this type of bill is all annexations in the future that would be pursued as we had pursued in favor of the taxpayer to really reduce the impact of the growth of the fire department. It was in favor of us to annex. Annexations into the future would no longer occur. This bill actually makes it very, very impossible, almost impossible for annexations to happen. So I would also request for our senators to vote Senate Bill 1108 down and regroup and get all those that are involved in the taxation and collection of taxes from our communities involved in a more robust and thought through legislation. When you see amendments happening in legislation and bills right in the middle of them being voted on, it leads to us to all think that there needs to be more collaboration and clarity into the legislation before we accept it into the law for the state. So thanks, Kathy. We appreciate it. I look forward to this bill not passing and then working towards growing the emergency services for our communities, as well as considering all tax ramifications on our taxpayers. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Carpenter. And next we'll have Chief Rick Allen with the Garden City Police Department. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rick Allen, and I'm a 27-year law enforcement veteran for here in the state of Idaho. I'm also the chief of Garden City Police Department, and I'm the president of the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association. As the president of ICOPE, I represent more than 70 chiefs and 150 law enforcement officers throughout the state of Idaho. ICOPE strongly opposes Senate Bill 1108. Idaho cities are growing at a remarkable rate, requiring municipalities to expand services to meet the basic needs of the citizens. Local governments are required to provide essential public safety services, that's police, fire, and EMS for their citizens, which is primarily funded through local property tax. Our ability to ensure the safety of our citizens is a critical component of Idaho law, or of Idaho, and the way of life. We are taxed with protecting the citizens of Idaho who have grown to expect that their law enforcement officers and their public safety officers meet their needs. We must allow future growth to pay for itself to ensure the infrastructure of public safety. Based on the growth rates, those spearheading development have no problem paying their fair share. ICOPA represents the chiefs in all of our fastest growing cities and we believe that Senate Bill 1108 will have a crippling effect on our ability to provide the safety and security for Idahoans throughout our state. We are not only public servants, but we're also citizens and taxpayers. As citizens, we want the new growth to pay for itself and fund the infrastructure to ensure public safety. In closing, I would share this thought. We all know that the largest budgetary components for all local governments is public safety, that's police and fire. Public safety is always the first to be negatively impacted during times of economic recession. And now we are in a time of economic growth and economic boom, and we're looking to cut public safety again. This is unacceptable. If we're going to ensure positive future growth, we must adequately plan for and fund public safety. We at ICOPA do not believe Senate Bill 1108 is good for the citizens, and it's definitely not good for public safety. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Chief Allen. And as we head into the Q&A portion, I apologize to the other elected officials on this call. I forgot to introduce the additional mayors we have. So we also have available for Q&A Boise Mayor Lauren McLean, Meridian Mayor Robert Simison, Garden City Mayor John Evans, and Caldwell Mayor Marianne Colas, as well as Greenleaf Mayor Brad Holton as well, in addition to Bill Larson, who is the director of the Treasure Valley Partnership. So I will turn it over to Seth Ogilvie now, who can help moderate the Q&A portion of our presentation this morning with the reporters on the call. Go ahead, Seth.
Thank you so much, Kathy. If you have a question, indicate that you do in the chat box, and I will unmute you so that you can ask your question. When I unmute you, please just indicate who your question's to, if it's to an individual. And the first question is going to come from the Idaho Statesman in Hyatt.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you. This question is for CUNA Mayor Steer. You had said that the bill would force you to carefully consider what growth can occur. I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little on what steps you'd take to do that and what that would look like.
Well, I think it's going to, not knowing exactly where this bill is going, if it's going to go through as is or not, it'll depend. We'll have to have discussions on that. I think all cities are kind of looking at what it would take to do a pause on annexation. You know, obviously, if we can bring in more commercial development, that type of thing, those businesses generally don't put a big burden on police and fire services, and they also help to bring property taxes down. So probably residential would be probably one of the things hardest hit as far as growth, and then expanding the city boundaries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Hyatt. Is there any other questions from the reporters here? I'm not seeing any indications in the chat. If you want to ask a question, I will unmute you. It's a quiet group today.
May I, this is Commissioner White. May I say something, please? I need to make a clarification.
For sure.
The graph that was put up, I believe that I alluded to that as being values, and that graph shows the taxes paid, where Walmart paid $100,000 less and the homeowner paid $1,000 more in that time span. Thank you.
I'm going to give it one more second. If any reporters have questions, indicate in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to Kathy, and everyone might be able to get back to their days very quickly. All right,
Beth,
going once.
I just got a notice that there was another raised hand, but I'm not able to see who that other raised hand was in case that's a reporter.
I believe it is. Okay, we will go to Brian, who has a raised hand, and we will go there. Brian, you are free to talk if you unmute yourself.
CBS2 News. Can you guys hear me? Okay, excellent. I noticed there's not anyone from education on this panel today. Can anyone speak to how this would impact education? School overcrowding, obviously a huge issue. My daughter's in the West Ada district, so I know this issue very, very well. So if anybody could offer any kind of comment on that, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'll take a little stab at it if you would like. So for the most part, I think the legislature's been trying to hold school districts harmless and not affect them a lot. I think where the biggest issue lies is, and one of the things we can do to help bring down property taxes is allow schools to collect impact fees. And I know that they've said that there's some constitutional issues with that, but I would implore the legislature to look into that and see what we can do so that we can, we certainly don't want to affect education. We're already pretty low in that area. So, and the main reason we don't have anyone from education on this panel, this is actually a panel from the Treasure Valley Partnership, which is made up of mayors and commissioners in the 3 local counties. So I hope that's a correct answer to your question and clarifies it.
I appreciate it, Mayor. It gives me another story idea. We're always looking for those.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mayor. And the next question comes from Melissa Devlin from Idaho Public Television.
Thank you, Seth. I have a question for Mayor Nancolis and Mayor Chadwick, and perhaps a few other people on here. To me, one of the elephants in the room is that a lot of the legislative leaders who are in charge of this proposal, who are really spearheading it, are from your cities and counties. Can you give us some insight into how those conversations with Senator Rice, Representative Harris, Representative Moyle, and other members of the legislature have been going?
Sure, this is Mayor Nancolis. I'll take a stab at that, Melissa. Thank you for your question and thank you for being a part of this call. I have met with Senator Rice numerous times, either phone or face-to-face in my office over the last several months. We have attempted to explain to him how a city budget works. As you know, I've put together 32 budgets over my experience as an elected official between mayor and council. And it appears to me that there just simply is a misunderstanding in the way budgets are put together, what the new growth and annexation roles would mean if we were to limit those. And I think it's just, I think maybe their desires are in the right place. But for me, it's just a clear misunderstanding of what the new construction role and annexations do as far as having new growth pay for itself. As is mentioned by other mayors, it's essential to have that. If we are not able to do that, then it actually penalizes the existing residents to continue to try to subsidize new growth rather than allowing new growth to pay for itself. Another element of this that hasn't been mentioned yet, Melissa, is that for road building authorities like Nampa, Caldwell, we have a lot of our property tax also goes to roads. So it's not just safety services that this will penalize. As you know, you've heard many comments from the legislature about the lack of funding for roads and highways and streets in the state of Idaho. Well, property tax dollars also go to pay for roads and streets in those areas that are annexed and where new construction is. We're required to maintain and operate those roads. So it not only affects police and fire, which it does in the city of Caldwell, but it also limits our ability to maintain those roads. So again, as Mayor Steer said, if this bill goes forward, we will have to greatly consider whether or not we allow new development in our city and what kind of new development if we can't pay for the cost of that new construction. I hope that helps, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Miss Melissa, This is Mayor Chadwick here in Star, and we do have Mike Moyle, happens to be one of my neighbors too as well. And we do have conversations regarding this. And as Mayor Nancola said, I do believe it's truly a misunderstanding of how these city budgets and whatnot are put together. I believe, you know, they want to reduce property taxes for the benefit of everybody, but the formulations on and their thoughts, in our opinions, are incorrect on how they're coming up with ways on reducing those property taxes. Mayor Pierce and myself actually have some upcoming meetings with our representatives in Star or in District 14 to sit down and dive into our budgets more to give them a better understanding of this. But I just want to add on to what Mayor Nancolas and Mayor Steer said. You know, if we do have to stop growth altogether and limit it, you're going to start seeing, in my opinion, an economic effect to that. You're going to start losing jobs in the construction industry, just like we saw back in 2008 and 9, 10 era when people left to other states, which in turn reduces other businesses because they rely on those folks for shopping in those businesses. And then it's just going to be this big steamroll effect if we take away new construction altogether, or limit our new construction, I guess, in our property taxes, and make these cities make these unnecessary decisions. You know, and private property rights start going away. I look at it as from a farmer standpoint. These guys have been farming for 50, 100 years, their families, and they're selling their properties for good top dollars right now. You know, now we're starting to take away their ability to profit off of their properties and all the love that they gave the state of Idaho over that time frame. So that's just my 2 cents there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do I have time for a quick follow-up?
Sure, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, so both Mayor Chadwick and Mayor Nancolas mentioned a lack of understanding, but we're talking about legislators who are very involved in tax policy and have been driving it for years. And one is the chairman of the Senate Tax Committee. So, you know, to be blunt, is it a lack of understanding or is it a lack of concern?
Melissa, if I may, you know, my conversations with Senator Rice have been very pleasant. I've known Senator Rice for a long time, played basketball with him in our earlier days. Obviously, he's a little taller than I am, so he was better than I was. But so again, the conversations have been pleasant. But really, I believe that unless you have actually been in the trenches, put a budget together, it's difficult to understand. You know, city budgets are very complicated. There's enterprise funds, special revenue funds, governmental funds, and all these different funds have strings attached to them. The way the ad valorem tax rate is applied to new construction and annexations, and how it's you know, applied throughout the budget as far as the general fund is concerned. How building fees and permits entitlement fees are used and how they cannot be used, franchise fees. I mean, it's a very complicated budget process. And so even though they've been involved in tax policy, it's different to actually sit in the trenches and put a budget together with your finance people, follow the laws of the state of Idaho, follow the rules that are put in place, and to put that budget together. So for me, I still want to believe that it's just misunderstanding.
You know, and I would agree. I think it's more misunderstanding because every city is a little bit unique and different. City of Star doesn't nearly have the responsibilities as the city of Caldwell or Nampa or even Middleton have. We don't have highways that we deal with. Our fire department is a district. Our sewer and water is a district. So we simply have our police contracts that we deal with, our parks and rec, and our rest of our little city services. And so you can't compare. It's not apples to apples. And it's like they're trying to put everything together as an apples to apples deal. So new construction is going to impact, I think, those other cities outside more than it would impact the city of Star. Oftentimes you'll hear Mike Moyle talk about a city's property tax budget's only 20% of their budget. Well, that's the city of Star. That's where he's getting that information from. I mean, we have a $6 million overall budget. Only 1.5 million of that comes out of property taxes. The rest of it comes from different funds, as Mayor Nancola said. So there is I think there's a big misunderstanding and of all these different how different cities operate and stuff throughout the state.
Thank you, Mayor. If anyone has a question, again, indicate in the chat or raise your hand, and I will go to Devin next.
Hi, yeah, I'm Devin Ramey from KTVB. Kind of just piggybacking up on Melissa's question, is a lack of understanding of city budgets really a good excuse for these legislators if they're proposing bills that would drastically change how your cities are funded? Like, is that a good excuse at this point? Because if they're leading tax commissions and whatnot, like, and making these bills, is that a good enough excuse at this point?
I guess I'll jump in again if I may. I think several of the other speakers have made a very good point and a very valid point, which is something that I have also suggested to Senator Rice. We want to inform, we want to help with understanding. And so I think the solution is to kill Bill 1108, take the time to really understand how these issues affect different municipalities, create an interim committee where truly local elected officials from all levels are included in the conversation, and come up with a solution that truly addresses property tax issues in the state of Idaho. Again, we have offered several solutions, indexing the homeowner's exemption and changing that formula. We've offered a solution for impact fees for schools. In the city of Caldwell, the Valley View School District is a very, very high property tax rate for people that live in the city of Caldwell. We think we need to work together with our legislators and come up with proposals that truly do address the situation. Circuit breaker, that certainly addresses some of those individuals who cannot afford higher property taxes, and we support that. I think there also needs to be a look at the general discussion of property taxes. There's so many things that affect property tax levy rates and property taxes in the city of Caldwell and all cities. I think there's duplication in property taxes in some areas. What about exemptions? I mean, there's all kinds of things that affect the overall cost to cities that haven't been discussed. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but for me, truly misunderstanding is probably not an excuse, because there is information, there is opportunities to learn. We've offered to get together with them and help them to understand how budgets are put together. We've offered to get together and brainstorm about how we can truly make property tax changes that will be long-lasting, beneficial, and that truly get at the root of the problem. I think Mayor Kling from Nampa suggested that we take a look at when do assessors change the levy or change the assessed value? Why not only change it when property is sold, or true major changes, remodels, or right now we have citizens who haven't done a thing to their property in 30 years, and yet they're being taxed out of their home just simply because the assessed value have gone up. So I mean, I'm throwing out all kinds of things, but I guess the point I'm saying is we've offered to sit down and brainstorm and try find a true answer, and I think that's really what we're after: is set this bill aside, take the time to erase the misunderstanding, truly learn and educate themselves on how city budgets work, and then come up with a solution that fits the situation.
And this is Mayor Kling, if I could follow up on that. And I totally agree with everything that Mayor Nancolis has shared. I might make one clarification, and that is on the interim committee. Last year, there was an interim committee, but by definition, the interim committee is only made up of legislators, and they get to invite in who they want in. We need a working group, an independent working group that comes together, that brings everybody at the table. And we need to listen, and we need our legislators to actually listen. As city officials, we have to listen to our people. And we need that across the board. And I don't mean to be disrespectful in any regard. And I have to say, I greatly appreciate the work of our legislators, but we have brought forward solutions. And as Garrett he just listed them all, and I did earlier, we've brought forward those solutions, but they haven't been allowed to be introduced. And there's only so much you can do. You can bring it forward. So I would like to suggest, and this is my recommendation to our legislators, it needs to be a working group. And the governor could actually call a working group together to where you have equal representation of citizens, of local elected officials and legislators, and that we all listen, that we need to be allowed to come to the table, and the solutions that we've brought forward really need to be heard.
If I might add something, this is Commissioner White. I would just say, you can hear me? Okay, thank you. I would just say there's an element of trust too. And that is so very, very important, because the same constituents that elected our legislators are the same constituents that elected us. And really, I think we're all taxpayers. And so a working group is a wonderful idea, but there is a trust part in this, to where we want to truly trust, and our citizens need to trust the legislators, that they have gotten all of their voices combined to individuals at the table. They can't reach everybody, but they can get a really good representation for the citizens and for the businesses and ag, all of that. And it needs to, we need to trust them, and they need to trust us. That would be, that would change a lot of the dynamics in coming to a solution.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as we're kind of moving towards the end, if you have another question, indicate. And if this next question goes pretty quickly, we can probably get to one more. But if not, that might have to be our last. And the next question is from Hyatt.
Hi, thank you. On the limitations of growth, I'm wondering if someone could speak more directly on the housing shortage right now in the Treasure Valley. You know, if you had to limit new construction, what that shortage would look like and how that would impact property taxes.
This is John Evans, Member Garden City. I can take a stab at that. One of the primary challenges when you're considering in an application to expand the population in your city is your ability to serve. And currently we do that in areas like utilities, sewer and water capacity. But if we are limited in how much the new growth revenue we can receive, then that is going to require an analysis on the value of the new growth that we bring in relation to the cost to serve that particular new growth. So the impact on our public services is population-based. So when you're looking at the analysis, it's going to make higher density, lower valued property more difficult to meet that service standard with the revenue it throws off if you're going to limit it to 75% of its taxable value. And it actually becomes regressive because it negatively impacts those that need the help and relief the most. So 1108 is simply a bad bill that will negatively impact our ability to help alleviate what I perceive as the basis of your question. How do we deal with the housing shortage, workforce housing? We don't need disincentives that would occur through 1108. We don't need those disincentives and we don't want to have to consider the value of that new growth in our decision making. We want to be able to accommodate all comers. Right now, our high value properties create the revenue that subsidizes our lower value properties. And we've worked on this balance, all of us, our entire careers. And upsetting that without any real discussion about the impacts is really unfortunate.
Well, unless any of the other mayors or commissioners or chiefs on the call wanted to add to that, I was going to turn the time back over to Kathy because we do not see any more questions and we're almost at the end of the program.
Thank you, Seth. Just in closing, I want to thank all the mayors from the Treasure Valley Partnership, Commissioner White and Chiefs Carpenter and Allen for joining us today, as well as the reporters who are able to join this call, in addition to Bill Larson, who's the director of the Treasure Valley Partnership. We'll be following up after this with the handouts that were shared by Commissioner White and Mayor Chadwick, in addition to some additional talking points that we have as the Treasure Valley Partnership regarding our opposition to Senate Bill 1108. And with that, again, just want to thank everybody for your time today. Thank you to the elected officials on today's call for joining. I know you all have very busy schedules on top of just the legislature being a busy time of year, generally speaking. So thank you to everyone's participation and hope you all stay well and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, thank you for putting this all together. Appreciate it very, very much.
My pleasure. Happy to help, Mayor.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Kathy.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't know if it'd be helpful, but do you have the link from our city council meeting on Tuesday?
I don't, but I heard about it.
Yeah, I'll send that to you in case that's something you would like to send out to provide for the discussion that we had at our city council meeting as part of this conversation. So I'll have Dave send that over to you with the timeframes here in the next few minutes.
I think that'd be great. We have the 2 slides from Mayor Chadwick. I think that link would be great from your council meeting, the handout from Commissioner White, and then just the general talking points. But if folks have additional items, I'm happy to collect, and then we can get Seth to send them out to the reporters that were on the call this morning.